Welcome to Inspire and Move, the show that inspires you to create, connect, and grow. I'm going to bring you meaningful conversations, aha moments, and all the motivation you need to up-level every part of your life. I'm Ali Aruda, founder of Inspire and Move, and your personal hype girl. I've gone from fashion school to celebrity stylist to corporate marketing to brick and mortar entrepreneurship with my husband, each time learning incredible lessons how to pivot, reimagine, and implement the steps to become successful. I am passionate about inspiring others to live their best life, a life of joy. We have the power to design a life that we love because life is too short not to. The best part is that you weren't meant to do this alone. If you feel like you were meant for more, let me ride shotgun with you, and together, let's get you to where you want to go. Hey you guys, I am so excited for today's episode. It is part one of a two-part series with the most incredible human. Buckle up because you are about to hear just some of the most amazing messages and stories and insights from someone that I have a lot of love for. She is a mentor and a friend, and this powerhouse is Lindsey Schwartz. So let's dive in. Part one. Here we go. Guys, welcome back to the Inspire and Move podcast. I feel like I am 10 out of 10 excited right now, sitting across from one of my favorite humans. And if you guys don't know her, buckle up because we're going to have such a good chat. I'm so excited to dive into so many things. Whoop, buckle on, safety, ready to go.
Safety first.
This human has been so transformative for me, and I am so grateful to call you a friend, and I am like really obsessed with watching you rise into just this incredible journey and powerhouse that you are. You guys, big warm welcome. I know you guys can't clap, but I can clap, and I am so excited to welcome Lindsey Schwartz on the podcast today.
Yay! I'm not above applauding for myself.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. I really love anytime we get to spend time together, so this is going to be so fun.
I just get to gaze into your eyes
Yeah,
for like
we're really
an
having
hour.
a moment right now.
I know.
Your husband
I
is
love it.
here, so it's fine.
It's totally fine.
He's not weirded out by our eye gazing.
No, I have so much love for you. Such a girl crush. Okay, so Ali, gather your thoughts here. I am so excited to go deep into your entrepreneurial journey. But where I wanted to kind of start before we go nice and deep on that is, was there a spark? Like, was there a spark for you along the journey, whether it was, junior high, high school, university, far after that? Was there a moment or a spark that was like, aha, of like, I want to be an entrepreneur?
I think about this a lot because there really wasn't a moment earlier in my life. Like so many people have I did the lemonade stands. I had like little things that I would do. But the truth is I didn't know entrepreneurs growing up. I didn't have any models. So my dream was to grow up and be a mom and a teacher and to be, all these things that I just saw modeled around me by amazing women like my own mother and like so many female role models. But then when I also look back, I remember this feeling that I couldn't actually put into words, but like I just knew I was supposed to be great. Like I really just knew I was supposed to do something big and achieve something big. And because I grew up in a really small town in the Midwest and didn't really have a lot of role models around me, I couldn't see now. I was just dreaming as big as I could see in my, circle. So it wasn't until, going to college and moving out of Wisconsin and just starting to be exposed to different things that I started to dream bigger. It's why I just believe so much in, surrounding ourselves with people who have these aspirational lives so we can kind of just start to see something bigger for ourselves. So it wasn't until 2008, my first job out of college was selling carpet.
Love this.
There's no way to make that sound cooler than it is. But at that time, it was also this interesting time in the world where in the US especially, there was a recession hitting and I was in the commercial construction industry. And it was the first time ever in my life that I remember just having the thought of like, maybe I should consider a plan B. Maybe I should start a little something of my own. I don't even know what that could be, but just maybe. And it was just like this little hint of the first idea that I could or even wanted to do something of my own. Because at that time, I was perfectly happy kind of chasing the American dream, climbing the corporate ladder, and just like thought I had it made. I had a company car, a cell phone, an expense account. Yes, I sold flooring, but I just like felt like, okay, I've made it. Like this is it. Until I think sometimes we reach the pinnacle of what we think success is. And then we're like, I think there's actually more. I just couldn't see beyond this point until I got here.
I love that so much. And it's so neat to hear that it came from you thinking that you want to have something else versus it coming from somebody else. Because I feel like there's a lot of people that could, whether they're listening here or just in the world, that they have side hustles, but it's more coming from a parent. And I think having that fire within yourself and that realization that, something else would be a good addition, and then that can turn into instead of. Is this when you approached the world and the industry of network marketing?
It was, and this is actually not something I share on like a lot of podcasts just because it makes the story really long, but it was also around the time that I was just getting really into personal development and reading about mindset and affirmations and all these things. So I was like, okay, all these really smart people say create affirmations. And I remember just having this simple thought to myself that there are people who get paid a lot of money to do what they love. Like things that other people look at as leisure, that's what other people get paid a lot of money to do professionally. So I would think about like my dad, who was working in corporate at that time and just waiting for his next vacation so he could golf for a week, and contrast that to someone who's like paid to golf professionally. Now, I didn't have any athletic skills that I could take pro, unfortunately, but it was the first time I just asked myself a question of like, well, what would my version of that be? Like, what would I love to do? If I could do anything, what would I love to do and get paid for? And the answer just kind of simply came down to this idea that I loved health and fitness. I even wanted to prioritize it more in my life. And I was like, that'd be kind of cool just to get paid to be like really healthy and fit. And so I wrote my first little list of affirmations, and I remember just writing so clearly. What I wrote was, I'm so happy and fulfilled to have started a business that combines my passion for personal development with health and fitness.
I love that.
And I wrote that out, and then it was actually Elliot, who's my now husband, we were engaged at the time, who was kind of dabbling in this network marketing company, and I didn't make the correlation until much later that it was essentially exactly what I was calling in, something that was very based in personal development and health and, this positive community. So my first little foray into entrepreneurship was that network marketing company, but I was unbeknownst to me calling it in for 6 months before that ever happened. And I really believe in that. I believe like when we set those intentions, like we start to get those little breadcrumbs of the answers that we're looking for.
I have a background in network marketing as well, and I think I have really appreciated over the last few years of watching and consuming people like yourself that I've learned that also had a background in that industry. And that's not the focus of this conversation, but I find it so interesting because there are many people that will have a camp that like give it a bad rap.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of love and gratitude for it because it has got me to some really cool places in my life. But I think the biggest thing is actually the personal development piece, because that's what got me into personal development.
Same.
And it's something that you can be obsessed with kind of year over year and can grow and appreciate, that everybody can benefit from personal development.
It's so true. I was one of those weird people who I actually didn't know enough to be skeptical, which was really a blessing in disguise, because I am typically someone who not so much skeptical but overthinks things. And I just remember being like, oh yeah, this is it. This is what I want to do. And Elliot, even my now husband, he even said to me, he's like, I think I just joined a pyramid scam. And I go, well, you're a smart guy, whatever that is. I'm sure it's going to be great. Just no idea. But what I learned was, it's an industry that's really based in personal development and taught me so much about sales, about the right mindset, about growing myself if I want to grow a business. And I wouldn't be the person I am today without that journey, that decade that I spent building that business.
I'm sort of the same. I have the same feelings, and I like to even tell people, in just from a conversational standpoint, that a benefit that can even come from network marketing is it's like business with the training wheels.
Yes,
your cost could be $10 or whatever the business is, the company, the products, but it's such a low risk, low cost way to start, and then try on the entrepreneur hat. Maybe you love it, and maybe you don't, because you typically start in business by yourself. and you build on that, and you have this world of personal development to support everything that you're experiencing on that journey.
Yeah, that was so the same experience that I had, and I really would have kept going. There was even a point where I just had a choice to make. I had to choose to go all in on this new thing I had been building, this Powerhouse Women idea, which wasn't making money, or continue building this very successful network marketing business that we had created. I mean, I turned in those carpet samples and went full time into my own business, and thought then I was in the season where I really thought that was going to be the future. I had no dreams of stepping outside of that until, I guess this is like the theme for my story, until I just started to look around at the current level I had achieved and just realize, oh, there is actually more. And I think more for me isn't so much based in, okay, now I just need to make that next level of income. I think that's a very unfulfilling journey to chase. For me, I'm always in pursuit of what's the next expansion for myself. Like, what is that next level of personal development, and what environment do I have to put myself in order to force myself to step into that? And that season was such a big part of that journey, opening up my awareness to just how much growth was possible.
I love that. And I love that you dropped a couple breadcrumbs getting us to Powerhouse Women, because I want to go right in deep on that, going from, your book and how things started with your Ladies Who Lunch and organizing those events to what Powerhouse Women is today. And it has been so fun to watch that journey. And for me, that's only been a few years, but I want everybody in the Inspire and Move community right now to be able to learn what that journey has been like for you.
Yeah. And it's kind of perfect that we started with the season of network marketing, because something that I started to notice in that season, number one, in where I live right now, Phoenix, there wasn't a lot of community outside of just your traditional networking groups. Nothing wrong with that, but I was noticing that I had ambitious friends, women who were nurses, who were professionals, who were craving the same kind of conversations that I was, but they didn't necessarily need referrals for like more sick people, right? If you're a nurse, you want to connect with other ambitious women, but going to like the traditional networking groups where it's all referral based just wasn't a fit. So, and I think this is so often how our bigger purpose evolves. It starts with that little breadcrumb of saying, well, okay, I'm kind of craving this too. Well, maybe I could put a little something together. So I did. I used to host these little lunch events monthly. I called them Ladies Who Lunch because, that's just as creative as I could get. We weren't having breakfast. It wasn't dinner. And I think you've heard this story before, how one time a woman reached out. She's like, I'm so excited that there's a chapter of this in my city. I had no idea. And I was like, that sounds more official than we are. Can you tell me a little bit more? She's like, yeah, Ladies Who Launch. And I said, oh no, we just lunch.
I love that.
That's it.
And I love how you've started. There was a moment when you went to lunch for Ladies Who Lunch, and you enjoyed a beautiful lunch by yourself.
It was a lady who lunches, and I was that lady.
Singular.
Just me, singular.
Party of one?
Yes, and and I feel like that's ultimately, we all have those moments in our journey where we have the time that something doesn't turn out as planned, or the launch doesn't go well, or no one joins. I knew enough from network marketing that like, oh, okay, now I just earned this Girl Scout badge. I had my first event that no one showed up to. Cool. Now I just get to build it from here. So even just like to see my personal growth to that point, and to not have that be this just like dream killing experience. It was the beginning of something that I didn't know I was so passionate about, which is bringing people together. So I was having these lunches for about a year, and this was in the same season where I started to just realize that what I realize now is that I had a bigger vision for my life that I wasn't stepping into. I wasn't growing. I wasn't challenging myself. And the way I always describe it is, I, looking back now, see that I was operating at maybe 60% of my full potential. And it was tricky because my 60% can produce results that look like other people's 100. And I think like when you're very gifted and you're like the kind of person who makes stuff happen, it's this catch-22 of like, you can coast and still produce like really great results, and it's up to you. You're the only one who's going to call yourself out on like, this isn't my max, this isn't my full potential. And I didn't really know why I felt so restless at the time, but I just knew I needed something. And I remember just thinking to myself, well, okay, personal development is the thing that has always kind of helped catapult me to that next level. And it was in 2016, and I still have the document saved on my computer that says a book a week in 2016, because that was my goal. I was going to read a book every week. And I read the first week week into January. The second week of January, I saw an acquaintance post on Facebook about doing a writing program for entrepreneurs who wanted to get their message out in the form of a book. And I still have the screenshot of the message I sent her, the DM that said, I don't know why I'm messaging you, but something inside said, you should do that. And I remember that conversation leading to a call with the person who was coordinating the 16-week program. And I walked into the call saying to Elliot, well, I'm just taking this call, but I'm not going to write a book. And then 30 minutes later saying, so I'm writing a book. And I gave the woman my credit card, and paid $2,000, which felt like $2 million to me at the time. And there was just something that said, like, lean into this, the next little breadcrumb. And I really just did it to prove that I could, prove that I could do something bigger than what I was currently doing. Never planned for it to create a business, start a movement, create events. But that book really was inspired by all these women that I was meeting and sitting down with, in network marketing. We're talking with people all the time about, like, what are your big dreams? Like, tell me. And I always joke, this is why I didn't go to like the tippy top of network marketing, because we'd sit down and they'd be like, oh, I'm so inspired by what you've done. I don't think that's for me. Like, I don't think I want to build this health and wellness business or a network marketing business, but I've always had this other idea. And I'm like, yeah, screw this. Tell me more about your other idea. And I would get so lit up just seeing how lit up they were. But in the next breath, they would tell me why they weren't ready, or they didn't know the right people, or they didn't have the right skills, or they were just afraid. They felt like an imposter. And every single time I would kind of sit back and go, well, wait a minute. Didn't anyone tell you? That's actually how we all feel. You didn't know that? Wait, let me tell you how scared I am every day, how much I don't know what I'm doing. And it just made me realize we need to have more honest conversations about the ups and the downs and the hard parts, just so that these perfectly capable people, and a lot of them for me were women, who have big ideas, don't stop before they get started thinking that we all have something figured out that they don't. And that was the little seed of what has now become Powerhouse Women.
Well, and I love that you shared this backstory about the book.
Yeah.
Because I remember hearing you talk about this, live at events, panelists, keynotes, but also your podcast. What was the title of your book?
Powerhouse Woman.
Yes.
Yes.
And then you did a book launch.
Yeah.
And the book launch turned into, had a new name.
Well, are you talking about the event?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was part of this program, and it was basically a self-published book with, some support behind it. And so the woman who was my editor and kind of acted as publisher, she said, well, a lot of people will do an event to celebrate, book launch. Now, number one, I was like, I know like 20 people, so it's gonna be a very small event.
But I throw a mean lunch.
And maybe people will come.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, well, okay, that could be fun. Because also now I was starting to piece together how powerful and impactful events had been for me in network marketing. And just, I saw the power of bringing together conversations and having these discussions that helped people feel less alone in their own journey. And so the book was called Powerhouse Woman. It was really intended to point people back to what's already inside of us, not to say, well, you just need to learn these 5 steps or do these 5 things and then you can call yourself a powerhouse. It was really pointing everyone, including myself, back within. And I said, an event focused on me sounds awful. That sounds like torture. Really don't love to have all the attention on me. But maybe we could have these conversations in a room and bring in different speakers and just show that anyone you see on the internet who's crushing it is also struggling sometimes, and they have just as many challenges. And that turned into the first ever Powerhouse Women event. Now we're plural.
Yep. Love it.
We have a couple of them. So many. And I never intended for that one book launch event to turn into what's now an annual event with women attending globally and all sorts of crazy things. But I don't think I was ever supposed to see the full picture, because had someone shown that Lindsey a vision of what my life looks like today, 6-7 years later, I think I would have been too freaked out. I never would have continued. I would have hid under my covers because it was too much for me to even envision at that time. So I always got just the next little step, just enough to make me stretch outside my comfort zone, but not so much of the vision. And even today, I don't see the 10-year vision because I think it would be too big. I think I would just pee my pants. And I'm thinking back to our dinner conversation the other night. Okay, I think I would just like soil myself and then hide under the covers because I'm not that person yet.
I have just like loved hearing and sort of piecing together in my mind of, snippets that I have consumed from your storybook and your journey. But I think it is so neat to just hear you and gaze into your eyes, hearing you talk about this journey and how it all pieces together, or parts of it piece together to where you are today. And I want to really now go deeper on Powerhouse Women. And I love live events. I'm not hosting events the scale of what you host, but what has that journey looked like for you? From we'll just call it like book launch for, Powerhouse Women that turn into women, to what annual number is it coming up this August?
So we're 7 years in, but this will be our 8th event.
It's amazing. And what has that evolution looked like? What has it felt like? Because I think that's a really big question here too, because there's what people see on Instagram and what they see online, what they hear on the podcast. But there is so much behind the scenes that happens in the other 364 days before that exceptional August day. What has that journey looked like for you?
I think your question is like really having me reflect on how much the event has essentially just become a reflection, an outer reflection of the inner change that happens within me, and I know within all of us, those 364 other days. And that's what's so cool about the growth of it. Isn't just being able to say that, we've grown it to these hundreds of women, or that it's grown every year, it's profitable. It's seeing the transformations. And I see it in myself. I see the person I've become and the person I get to bring to the stage into that room every year. But I see it now in our community, the women who've attended year after year, and they've physically transformed before my eyes. They walk taller, they walk more confidently. What they're accomplishing and how proud they are of themselves is it transforms. And I think it's just so beautiful to have this annual timestamp to really make ourselves reflect back on how far we've come. And that's ultimately like, yes, we talk about business. Yes, we have a ton of fun and there's dancing and there's energy, but at the heart of it is this transformational journey of each of us kind of, like I've been talking about, looking out at the horizon and saying like, okay, well, who do I want to be next year? Who's this version of me I want to step into? How does she dress? What is she doing? How does she show up for herself and the people that she loves? And then every day working to step into that version, and then bringing ourselves, that version of ourselves, to the room at this annual timestamp when we get back together. And that's my favorite part of it. I don't even know if that was the answer to your question, but that's what's on my heart.
I'm like, tell me more. Tell me more. Well, I've heard you talk about, you and Hannah, talking about how Powerhouse is like your New Year's. And hearing you even reference, timestamp, I think that is just so timely.
Yes.
That's what your vision is for the event and for the transformation that all of the women attending experience. And I would love to know, like, the emotions that you feel, maybe not so much leading up to the event, because I can appreciate those probably a wide range of those emotions. But what do you feel when you step onto the stage and you are looking out at this audience of women that are showing up for the first time, that are showing up for the second, third, fourth, or they've been there all 8 years? What do you feel when you step onto that stage looking out at this audience?
So many things. I feel this, I almost picture like the movie Avatar, where everyone's like plugged into the tree. This is getting too weird. It's like this connection that I can feel, even if they can't see and feel it yet, knowing how connected everyone is going to feel to each other, to themselves, to the bigger vision by the time that they leave, because we've designed it that way. We know exactly how to walk people through that emotional journey. And just proud, like so excited for people, for people to like really remember who they are, for them to remember their power. And I'm vicariously and very personally having that experience within myself. That is where I feel my most powerful. I feel my most self-expressed. I feel my most in my authentic identity is that day on the stage with my people, having conversations about like who we want to become, but also honoring who we've been that has brought us to this point. So it's a very like spiritual experience. And I always tell people, I can try my best to explain it in words, but until you're there in the room in that energy, you can't even fathom. Like it really is just it's a different community. It's a different experience, and you feel it. It's visceral.
I love that. Who is Powerhouse Women for?
I think it's for any woman, but even that is, we've never turned away a dude who wants to attend.
Well, Matt Aruda loves going to all-female events. It wouldn't be his first time, so maybe I'll bring him with me. He'd be one of three in the audience, and the husband's in the back.
Yeah, Elliot holds down the back of the room and is there just like so beautifully holding space. And of course, Rick, my dance instructor, who is just an amazing human being, was there with us this year. So women, but we'll just, include anyone who just really resonates with this idea that you want more for yourself. You want to evolve and grow in your career, in your business, in your life. I think my original intention, because I was an entrepreneur, was to create a community for entrepreneurs. But it's so beautiful to see how the vision has expanded far beyond that to women who are, creating change in their corporate career. They're just leaders and visionaries in their lives, and they want to plug into other people who are thinking that big. Because the biggest thing that I've realized for myself is, unless I'm surrounding myself with other people who are thinking as big as I am or beyond, I start to look around and question myself. I start to look around and think, well, is this okay for me to have these really big, wild dreams? And that's not to say that other people in my life don't get it or they aren't supportive. I don't expect them to get it. I don't expect anyone else to get my vision. That vision was given to me for a reason. But it's up to me to support that vision with the right kind of people who are going to pour into it, who are going to pour life into it, and not just encourage me and say like, good for you, that's amazing, but to say, I think you can think bigger. I think you could do that in 6 months, so where are you going to be in a year? And it's that kind of support and accountability and community that has ultimately changed my life, and I know how transformational it can be for other people. So again, I'm just really selfishly creating what I need, and I'm just blown away by seeing how it ripples into the lives of everyone else who's there.
I love that. Yeah. I'm so excited to just experience that feeling.
I know.
And transformation, maybe a little bit of twerking, leaving room for some magic and some moves.
You never know what you could shake free just by learning how to twerk. It's true.
I love that. Because so one of the things I want to kind of chasse over into is community, which I think goes so beautifully with who you are, what you do, what you are building, and what you have built. Do you have foundational components when it comes to building community, whether it, maybe not so direct and black and white as a checklist, but there are things that you've learned and picked up along the way that you feel is really imperative to cultivating community?
I got asked this question so many times that at one point I did have to sit down and actually think through like, well, how would I explain this? Because I think, and I watch you operate in this way and so many others, where when we're just really operating from our authentic zone of genius and the way we see the world, I didn't realize that we were doing anything really all that different. I knew it felt different, but it took me a while to actually dissect what it was. And what I really boil it down to, and what I teach people now, is it's really this combination of three things. But the first one is the most important, which is creating a culture that really draws people in and makes them want to stay, makes them feel like they belong. Because community is, at its core, it's about connection. So I think if you're creating community around anything, around a business, around something you're passionate about, it's really answering the question, well, what are you unifying people around? What is that connective tissue? What do we all believe that, we know, and I always use this example, if you were to meet someone in a far corner of the world and find out that they were connected to the Powerhouse Women community, there's something or a few things you would just automatically assume about that person. And that ultimately, that's what your culture is. Whether that's what you want it to be or not, it's really thinking through, like if someone were to meet another woman who listens to Inspire and Move or is part of your community, and you're not even there, but someone's like, oh my gosh, you also listen to this podcast and are a part of this movement. The immediate thing that I think about them and I know about them in that moment, that's the connective tissue. That's what we're unifying people around. So when you realize that, you can be intentional, right? You can be intentional about starting to seed into the community. Well, who are we and what do we believe and what do I want people to know about us so that they know if they're a fit or if they know that they're not. I believe that I want everyone to be included, but also I'm very protective over the culture that we've created. And I think that's the most important piece. Like when you're creating community, you're essentially creating a feeling of belonging. And that is fundamentally such a deep human need. It's actually on the hierarchy of needs, it's right above food, shelter, and water. Things you would actually die without.
Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you took 30 seconds and shared this on social media, send it to a friend, or leave a 5-star review. There is power in community, and I am so grateful to have you part of mine.